So, if you ask an AI to, like, design a bookshelf for you,
It's going to draw you a structurally flawless blueprint.
right, absolute
Right.
perfect. But, if you ask that exact same AI to build you a modern web platform from absolute scratch.
Yeah, you're highly likely to just get a pile of constantly mutating screws,
Exactly. And like an instruction manual written entirely in invisible ink.
which is a complete nightmare.
It really is. So, welcome to this deep dive. Today, we are exploring a really fascinating first-person account. It's titled The Architect's Pivot, From Coding Chaos to React Clarity.
And this is just a brilliant stress test for where generative AI is actually at right now.
Yeah, because we're tracking the intense, basically trial and error journey of a complete non-developer, someone who tried to architect a really complex React environment using literally nothing but AI prompts.
Right, and we're looking at this not just to, understand a code base. We want to extract the hidden realities of modern web development.
Especially for anyone listening who has ever felt just completely overwhelmed by tech jargon. I mean, this deep dive is going to be incredibly validating for you.
Oh, absolutely. Because it forces us to look at the friction between human intent and, well, the constraints of local development environments.
Yeah, and all those hidden systemic traps in open source and enterprise software.
Mhm.
But, the mission here is to map out what happens when you remove the traditional engineering background completely.
And just rely purely on an LLM to take you from a blank text file to a functional product.
Right. And the motivation for this whole thing is actually deeply personal for the author.
It is.
Yeah, they talk about experiencing severe shadow banning and just a total loss of visibility on social media.
Which is so frustrating.
So frustrating. And that engineered this massive drive to build independent platforms. They wanted to give regular people a real chance to be seen, outside the algorithmic control of massive tech companies.
And that provides the necessary velocity for a project like this. I mean, when you're trying to bootstrap complex architecture without a computer science degree,
General curiosity is just not going to cut it.
no, exactly. It's not enough to push you through the roadblocks. You need a systemic pain point. And that pain point really dictated their initial, very raw approach.
Oh, totally raw. We're talking about phase one, which relied entirely on vanilla HTML, JavaScript, and CSS.
The absolute bare metal of the web.
Right. And the author describes this process that just quickly spiraled into total chaos. Like every time they tried to add a new page or a feature, it basically detonated the existing layout.
Yeah, CSS files bleeding into each other.
Exactly. And the JavaScript conflicts would just repeatedly cause that dreaded blank white screen of death.
Well, this is a classic symptom of treating generative AI as an architect rather than like a junior contractor.
Oh, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, because when you generate vanilla CSS and JavaScript prompt by prompt, everything fundamentally exists in a global scope. So if you don't have the engineering background to establish rigid naming conventions like BEM methodology or module patterns, the AI isn't going to just proactively do that for you.
So let's unpack this. It sounds like using AI to write vanilla HTML is it's like having a robot hand you bricks and mortar, but giving you literally zero blueprints for the house.
That is exactly what it's like.
But if AI is so smart, I mean, why didn't it warn them that this vanilla code would just turn into spaghetti?
Because the AI lacks any persistent oversight of the holistic project. It's operating in a purely transactional vacuum.
Like you ask for a feature, it gives you that specific feature.
Exactly. It generates the syntax for that one thing. You prompt it for a navigation bar, it writes the styles. Later, you ask for a footer, and it writes new styles that silently overwrite your navigation bar.
Oh, wow. Because it assumes you're managing the whole structure in your head.
Right. It assumes you, the human, are maintaining the mental DOM tree and managing the namespace. Generative models are bound by their context windows. They are optimized to solve the microproblem in your immediate prompt.
So they default to the fastest path to output.
Yes. Which, in vanilla web development, means polluting the global namespace. It doesn't inherently care that scaling vanilla code like that just creates a fragile house of cards.
And man, that fragility was really compounded by a lack of basic version control.
Oh, the backups. Or lack thereof.
Yeah. The author notes they initially lost their entire code base multiple times simply because they hadn't implemented backups.
Which is terrifying.
And then, even when they finally did start backing things up, pasting the newly updated AI code caused violent clashes with the old HTML components. Like the system was just cannibalizing itself.
Well, yeah. Without Git or some kind of version control, you're essentially performing open heart surgery on your app every single time you update a feature. You just lose the connective tissue.
Right. So that total lack of architectural foresight from the AI forced a massive pivot. The author realized bare metal was impossible, so they turned to modern frameworks.
To organize the chaos.
Exactly. But stepping into frameworks didn't actually solve the friction, did it?
No, it just completely changed the flavor of it.
Yeah. They traded visual CSS clashes for invisible package management. Hell, they tried Next.js first, and the AI could build beautiful things, but um, publishing and saving.
Nothing but errors.
Just catastrophic errors. The NPM package manager was a complete mess. Conflicts were just erupting between Vite, package.json, and lock files.
Oh, heavily exacerbated by post-CSS and pre-CSS issues, I'm
Yeah,
sure.
exactly. But wait, aren't Next.js and NPM supposed to be like the professional standards, the tools that actually solve these exact problems?
They are professional standards, yes, but they introduce a massive leap in complexity. I mean, the infamous node ecosystem is not for the faint of heart.
So they didn't streamline anything for this non-developer.
No, because these frameworks are highly opinionated and built for enterprise scale. They assume you understand environment variables and strict dependency resolution.
Right, the AI can write the syntax that goes inside the framework.
But it has zero situational awareness of your local machine's dependency tree. When Vite and a post-CSS plugin start fighting, the AI is effectively flying blind.
That perfectly explains the Node.js update issue they ran into. The system kept demanding, like, these admin-level pseudo commands.
Ah, yes, the permission errors.
Yeah, and the commands kept failing. So the author leans on Gemini to fix it, and Gemini was entirely useless.
Because the AI is trapped inside the browser, it can't parse the specific permissions hierarchy or the execution policies of your operating system.
So it's just guessing.
Basically, it hallucinates generalized Stack Overflow solutions, tells you to run a sudo command, completely unaware that your node environment wasn't installed correctly in the first place, causing a deep system conflict.
Which just leaves the human completely stranded in the terminal. And that is where the fatigue really sets in.
It's the ultimate friction point. It's exactly where most non-technical founders just abandon ship.
I can see why.
Well,
Both Gemini and Grok suggested they move away from pure JavaScript and use TSX instead.
which the author was pretty skeptical about.
Very skeptical. They had tried TSX with Vue before and found the structure infuriatingly rigid. I mean, their npm run build commands in Firebase Studio were just constantly crashing.
The tools designed to abstract the difficulty actually became the primary source of the difficulty.
Exactly. But eventually, the total breakdown of npm and Vue forced them to drop the skepticism. They tried a new combination, and Grok suggested migrating away from npm over to Yarn.
And that is a fascinating strategic move.
It was a total game changer. The author said routine updates suddenly just worked without crashing the server. Why is Yarn so different?
Well, under the hood, Yarn handles the math of resolving dependencies and generating log files differently than the default NPM. It was engineered to provide tighter consistency across environments.
Which is huge when you have an AI blindly throwing dependencies at your package.json.
Exactly. But even with Yarn, they weren't totally in the clear, were they?
No, they had to hunt down one final invisible demon. It was a silent conflict happening between a package.lock.json file and a yarn.lock file.
Oh, that is such a treacherous environment trap.
How does that even happen?
Well, when a non-developer is copying AI prompts, they might run an npm install command one day and a yarn command the next. That generates competing log files.
Ah, so the files are fighting.
Right. Those files are meant to strictly freeze the versions of every dependency. Having both is literally like having two different air traffic control towers feeding conflicting landing coordinates to the same airplane.
The build tools just panic.
Exactly.
But I want to highlight something really crucial here. The authors successfully debugged that silent lock file conflict themselves. The AI didn't do it.
That's the real turning point.
It is. And once they cleared it, their new stack yarn, TSX, React, and Vite finally stabilized. I mean, YarnLint caught errors early, Yarn build worked, and Yarn dev gave them instant visualization.
The environment was finally harmonized with the AI's workflow.
Yeah. Even the dev agent could finally talk properly with Chrome DevTools. And all those massive CSS conflicts from phase 1 just vanished.
Because of React's component-based architecture.
Exactly. Complex things like social media buttons or SoundCloud embeds became these clean, reusable blocks.
By using React, you're effectively building watertight bulkheads inside a submarine. If one component's logic springs a leak, it doesn't sync the entire app. The CSS is scoped locally.
So it's like finally getting prefabricated, interlocking Lego bricks instead of trying to mold every single piece out of wet clay.
That's a perfect analogy. The AI no longer needs to hold the entire global namespace in its head. It just generates one Lego brick at a time.
And Vite handled most of the styling natively, so they didn't even need post-CSS anymore. It kept everything minimal.
Plus, the rigid typing of TSX acts as a guardrail. It forces the compiler to catch the AI's hallucinations before they hit the browser.
Which is so ironic, right? The strictness that drove them crazy in Vue became the exact containment protocol they needed.
It really did.
But I have to ask you, looking at this whole turnaround, who is the real hero here? Is it the AI for suggesting yarn, or the author for figuring out that silent lock file conflict?
Oh, the human was absolutely the hero.
Yeah.
Yes, the AI is just a highly advanced compass. The human remains the navigator. Suggesting yarn was just a programmatic response to an error log.
But actually cleaning up the lock files took real awareness.
Precisely. The breakthrough wasn't just downloading a new tech stack. It was the author learning to navigate the ecosystem. They had to manage the intense psychological friction of the terminal.
Yeah, human persistence beats technical ignorance every time.
Exactly. The tech facilitated the build, but the human was the engine.
But, even after conquering this massive mountain of React code, the friction didn't just disappear. It migrated.
Right into the business side of things.
Exactly. Just as the code got sustainable, they realized corporate infrastructure has its own hidden traps.
The infrastructure trap is so common for solo founders.
The source details this really frustrating battle with Google Workspace. They were forced to use the domain viralvisible.com because it was the only .com available.
And then the costs started spiraling, right?
Yes, because Google started counting basic Gmail aliases as entirely extra paid seats.
That is a notoriously common trap within enterprise SaaS billing models. It's designed for corporate deployment, not for a solo developer just trying to route incoming emails.
And it gets worse. The Gemini Pro agent didn't even migrate properly into their workspace. Users were being asked to pay extra for Pro, while the workspace version stubbornly just said, work.
What a disjointed mess.
It really was. So the author just canceled everything. They did a hard reset, moved to Squarespace, and bought a brand new domain. usevisible.com.
Which represents a pretty significant philosophical shift.
It does. Now, to be clear, we're just reporting their perspective here impartially, but the author links this new domain to their view on free speech.
Right, tying back to the initial shadow banning motivation.
Exactly. They feel that fair play in America just doesn't always feel equal for, the regular guy trying to build something. So the domain is a personal reminder for them.
It's a powerful motivator.
It is. But man, here is where it gets really interesting to me. The sheer irony of this whole journey.
The juxtaposition is staggering.
They successfully wage war against incredibly complex open-source TSX components and node environments, and they actually win.
But then they get financially and operationally derailed by an off-the-shelf, supposedly simple enterprise product like Google Workspace.
Right. So are the easy business tools actually the biggest hidden traps?
In many ways, they absolutely are. The tech journey perfectly mirrors the entrepreneurial struggle. Tools that present the lowest barrier to entry, like vanilla HTML or Google Workspace, often hide the most unyielding constraints.
Because they're incredibly easy to start.
But the moment your use case deviates from their algorithmic assumptions, customization is basically impossible. You're trading long-term control for short-term convenience.
But then tools with a brutal learning curve, like React and Yarn, eventually give you total operational freedom.
Exactly. Once you understand the underlying mechanics, you control the physics of the environment.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. So, synthesizing all of this, what's the actual takeaway for you, the listener, whether you're trying to build a startup from your kitchen table or just prepping for a meeting on tech stacks?
Well, you have to maintain intense skepticism of the easy path.
Yes. Stay skeptical. Test things yourself.
And realize that the tool you are most hesitant to try, like the author was with TSX and Yarn, might be the exact thing that makes it all click.
You can't skip the messy middle of local environment configuration. Persistence through those terminal errors is literally mandatory for success.
The AI can write the syntax, but it cannot architect the local environment for you. You have to be willing to engage with the friction.
Which brings us to this really provocative final thought. Something I want everyone listening to just mull over.
Okay, let's hear it.
We just spent this whole time looking at a complete non-developer who navigated log file conflicts, node permissions, and React architecture just by having a conversation with an AI.
It's incredible when you step back and look at it.
It is. So what does the future of software engineering actually look like? If an LLM can effortlessly generate complex, isolated TSX components today.
And eventually untangles local environments on its own tomorrow.
Right. Are we approaching a cliff where the role of a developer shifts entirely? Like maybe we're moving away from writing code to just managing the psychological conversation between different AI agents.
It forces a massive recalibration. It suggests a landscape where the entry-level developer market is just hollowed out.
The real-time commoditization of basic syntax generation.
Exactly. If the machine handles the micro-level coding, the value of the human shifts entirely to macro-level architecture. You have to possess senior-level vision from day one just to manage your AI.
The human becomes the conductor. And, if you don't know how to read the symphony, it doesn't really matter how well the AI plays the instruments.
A fundamental shift in how platforms will be built.
Absolutely. Well, keep analyzing the friction, keep mapping the architecture, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.